recording.
All right, everybody. So our virtual Clouders Club for tonight, we are talking scouting at home and our ScoutsTracker training session number 1 out of 3. Our rules of engagement, as usual, for those who have attended. For those who are new, please, we're muted everybody's mic and we'll unmute only during the question and discussion time at the end. Please turn off any video. Presenters, please keep your video on. This helps with the lag of anybody who's having issues with their bandwidth. You have an option to turn, oh no, that's in Zoom, sorry, the other teams. Please ask questions in the chat bar throughout the presentation. We'll address them as the discussion carries on and through the discussion and question period. This session is being recorded, just to let everybody know, and will be shared on our YouTube channel. And please keep questions to the topics of the day. And normally after we have a session, we have a social session afterwards. So please feel free to stay on and talk about anything you'd like. Today's agenda, our safety moment, our scouting at home questions and sharing, our program support update, and our discussion at an open floor. So our safety moment for virtual scouting, as always, please use the Scouter rule during any virtual interactions. This means any email, any virtual meetings, any Facebook discussions, and so forth. Please use the Scouter rule at all times. In Zoom and other virtual meeting software, there are waiting features room features that allows you to control this. I know, for example, I had a meeting with my ventures last night. There was a couple ventures there before I was. I did not allow anybody in the room until I had another scouter present. So that feature really helps with the 2-scouter rule. Please ensure that you're protecting your meeting space. Use a password in the waiting room. This does protect your meetings. Do not publish the meeting links on a public profile site, so an open Facebook page, for example. And send, if you do have a password, it's always nice to send it in separately in participants' email. I'm going to add, if you do use ScoutsTracker, keeping along with tonight's topic, it's always nice to add that link into the ScoutsTracker meeting as well. For social media age requirements, just please ensure that those who are under the age of 13 have permission from their parents to talk on social sites. It is, most of our social media sites do require ages of 13 or older to have Facebook accounts and so forth. So please ensure that the parents and the youth know the rules and how to keep safe when using social media. Our scouting at home moment tonight is Christine Howard from 3rd Bowmanville. So I'm going to unshare my screen, and Christine, if you could jump on here, that would be great.
Is that better?
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I had a feeling I touched the headphones, but they don't signal to me when they're off. All right. All right. So we've got, can you see the screen?
Can I have earphones?
Okay, good. Okay, so we did a virtual camp this weekend. And so I'm just going to sort of walk through some of the different things that we did for that. So we started out with the week before. Oh, can I go into a big screen mode? Okay, I don't know. Slideshow from beginning. Thank you. He's in another room, so I was like, no! But we didn't want the devices to make noises. Okay, so we started our virtual camp with planning, and so we planned it basically the same way we would if we were going to be together. We had to think about all the elements that we would be doing. That we'd want some outside time, we want some craft time. The kids would plan ahead of time for the foods and all that kind of stuff. So we try to incorporate everything we would do at a face-to-face camp into our virtual camp. So a week before camp started, we said time to get in your menus. So we sent out a list, and they could either post it on Facebook through their parents, or they could send it to us through the RSVP link. So some of them did both ways. So we had a couple here that are just showing their camp foods for the week. Some of them went far enough and sent a grocery list as well. We didn't ask for or require a grocery list because we didn't want to encourage them to have to go out in this environment. So it was sort of look for what you have at home. But those who were going out could provide a list if they were so apt to, if they had to buy something anyways, and they wanted to make a grocery list, they could. But because of the times, we didn't put that on the schedule. So they sent us these within the week beforehand. So then the day of camp, we sent them a schedule in the morning so that they could see what was coming and they could see, their parents could help them with timelines and that kind of thing to do. So we made things very open-ended so that our beavers could join and our cubs and scouts could all join into the same activities. So we did it based on points, got the kids really excited and going with it. But then we had a beaver section, a cub section, and a scout section. So the beavers were really competing against themselves. They didn't have to have the same point levels as the scouts would have. So if they did things like, you know, they needed help for cooking and they cooked indoors, or they were sleeping indoors in a homemade fort kind of thing, those would get less points than those who were sleeping outside, but that's okay because all the beavers were doing that kind of thing and all the scouts were doing the higher end, and their point tallies went based on their levels. So so we had winners in all the sections at the end. So we started with our opening when it got to time, and so the kids came online. We did a Zoom meet for our opening, so we had the flags up in the back and we had one camera on the flags. Great thing about having the full family in scouting, we had multi-cameras in everywhere. So we had a couple sharing one camera so that another one could be on the flags and another one could be in a separate room from each other for, so it was great that way. So we had our flags up to do our opening. The kids all joined us, and we did, since it's harder to do, we could do raise the flag and that kind of thing, but we did our scout, our promise motto, law and motto. And so we did the beavers first and we helped them with leading theirs. And then cubs, we had a cub who led theirs and did a repeat after me for everybody else that wasn't in their section, and then same with the scouts. So that was how we adjusted the opening to being everybody there. And then they had to, after we left, we gave them instructions, said, okay, so your next job is, so for Friday, it was for the rest of the night. So they had to set up their camping, whether it be indoors or outdoors, whether they're making a fort or a tent. And a lot of them did indoor tents as well, especially the younger ones. And then the older ones did the outdoor tents. We had some of our younger ones even doing an outdoor tent with parents with them. So that was great. And so we left them to do that, and then a mug up, and they could cook the mug up inside, outside, whatever they wanted to do. Again, we encouraged the outside. So you saw the older ones, some of them, especially by the end of the weekend, started cooking more and more outside and doing their s'mores outside and that kind of thing. The younger ones, we had one beaver who was helping. You could see him chopping the food and stuff in some of his pictures, and then he went outside to eat. So that was how he got his outdoors there and fulfilled that. So so we sent them off to go and set up their tents, have their mug up, and in our group, we always do some quiet time. So we do a movie or a quiet game, board game, or card games are especially popular with us. And then they sort of, you stay upstairs until you're ready to go to bed, and then they can go off to their rooms when they're ready to actually go to sleep, so they don't keep the others awake. So they all sort of leave from our camps at different times to go into their areas. So we left this the same way, so that it was open-ended as to when. So they sent us pictures, their parents uploaded pictures on Facebook of what they were doing for their quiet activity, and then they all went off to bed at the same time. So we paralleled everything with what we actually do in our actual camps. So here's some examples of the cooking outdoors. So we got a lot of pictures of Riley because I didn't care about putting him on there. The other kids, a lot of their pictures were on, so they have permission to be on our Facebook site, but not out in public. So I either chopped their heads off or I stuck to Riley pictures. So you're gonna see a lot of Riley on here, sorry about that. So we can see he chose over the barbecue to cook, but underneath here, I can't get rid of my thing. Oh, we can see that this cub had a little open fire that they were using at their place. So that's how they made their wieners for that day that they were doing hot dogs. So that's so they had different options and different ways that they could do it, and this was a lot about being creative for how they could get through their stuff, and what things they had at home. So we also did, so moving on to Saturday, we woke up in the morning, and again, they had to make their breakfasts and post pictures of them cleaning up and everything, because just like at camp, they have to clean up their mess. So we had them doing that and showing us what they, that they were doing that. And again, for points, our older guys were really based on the points. They were gunning ho for those. One of the scavenger hunts was a Zoom scavenger hunt. So they came online early on Saturday morning, and this was ones that were simple things. So go find a spoon, go find a Kleenex box, go find a key. So it was things that everybody sort of could find in their house. And although the Beavers had the advantage for the crayons, the Scouts had a little more trouble finding their crayons. It was find things that were simple to get everybody included, to run around, to share, and you know, the Beavers and Scouts had equal access to that. And the older Scouts were just as happy as the little Beavers were at this. So that was wonderful. Later, we did an outdoor one, which we'll see later on in here. And then we did a Facebook scavenger hunt. So they were all very different, although they were all scavenger hunts. Then we moved into a Hug a Tree program. So again, we went to being on our own. So I sent them links to videos. And so they watched the video and had time to discuss with their parents. So this was a great option to do at home, because it gave the parents the involvement. Usually when we talk about Hug a Tree at home or at scouting meetings, our kids hear about it and our kids get to understand that process, but the parents don't hear what we expect of them and how to keep themselves safe. And so this opened a discussion with the parents. And so we actually got parents that were sending pictures of them having a discussion with their kids on all the different aspects of it. So in our outline of the meeting, I gave them some hints of things to look at, but they just had that watch the video with their kids. So that really helped. And then there's some online activities I sent. So you can see here, Riley is doing a cootie catcher with it, and another kid sent in the crossword puzzle and fill in the blank stuff. So it gave them a chance to do some different things with it and to actually touch base on that topic with their parents, which was really cool. I thought that was a really good opportunity for the parents to see what kinds of scouting things that we learn and talk about. After knowing their Hug a Tree stuff and how to be safe when they get lost, it was time for our outdoor hike. So again, we left it very open. The first thing they had to do was everybody had to pack a bag. And so they packed and sent us pictures, and then a lot of them just put in their comment section what it was that they packed in the bag. Some of them made videos so that you could actually see them talking about it. Videos don't post on here any good, so we don't have any of the video ones, but we had some great, and at the beginning of the weekend, we only had Riley posting videos, and by the end of the weekend, a lot of them were posting videos, and one of my first year Cubs posted a video this Wednesday on his badge work. So I was so excited to see him actually talking, and he's one of my really, really quiet ones. And so he actually got on and talked about his own thing. So it was really cool. So this is their bag here that this person was packing, and then he told me all the things that he had to put into it. So you can see his water bottle and a snack and his spare socks and things like that. So then the hike, the outdoor time was very open-ended again. If their parents weren't available to walk with them and stuff, they were given the option of going in their backyard and playing and showing us pictures of that, just so they got it some outdoor time. All of our guys did take I had one that did take that option. All the others took the option of going on a hike, and they had people available to take them, which was great. And so in the scavenger hunt, I just put some pictures on here so you can see some different things. So we can see this purple rock up here in the right-hand corner. So, you know, it was looking for something purple. So some kids found flowers on their way that were purple, and this child found a rock. So, you know, some of the things were tricky, but they could find them. And then these ones were all water pictures, and I just wanted to show you that, you know, again, they put their creativity to use and found, so one of them walks past a pond, a big pond area, and another one has a little pond in their backyard because they have a bit of a farm. But then here we got these two in the bottom left corner, that one found the water running at his house in the faucet, and another one found a storm drain. So they really used their creativity to find all the things on the scavenger hunt just from their own home. They didn't need to go out to a big area. So we gave them about an hour to do that, and that's when they took that amount of time, and they were all very excited. I heard lots of good positive feedback about that scavenger hunt, so that was great. And there's trickier ones like find a spider web, so that took them a few minutes, I was told, to find. We went on to knot tying. Again, I didn't want them to go out and buy things, so it was using whatever things they had. So they had to be creative and think. So if I said to them, if you don't have a proper note, so you can see one here using paracord and another using string, I told them they could also just use a shoelace, anything that they had that they could make their knots out of. And we put points to the knots so that some of them would try some of the harder kind of knots, and we sent them some video links. So that was really good. We had a lot of kids who really liked learning off the video links. They said it was a lot easier than actually in person, so that was kind of nice. It gave them a chance to experience it and learn it in a different way. And then some of them came online and did a video, and some of them just posted pictures and then a comment section. They had to tell us how they would use that type of knot as well, where it was useful. So again, the full rounded thing. So although, you know, we can't necessarily check off, hey, they know it 100%, they know it next day, you know, maybe a parent helped them. We don't know those things. However, we can now go, okay, so this is a knot we can keep practicing with that child because they've had that experience, and let's move on to trying it more often. And then we can make a Zoom meeting out of it for one of our weekly meetings and see them doing it on the spot. And then we can check off those skills from there. So this is sort of a learning opportunity. They did some STEM time. So we had our younger ones. We had a beaver who did a catapult, but I couldn't get him out of the picture on his. So we had some catapults. We had somebody who had a kit already to make a pinball thing, so he did that. We've got Riley here working on his scout truck. So lots of different ideas that they had. Again, I gave them some suggestions, and they went with it from there. Oh, that was kind of neat. I didn't know I put that in. We did Leave No Trace. So we did this online. So we reviewed, we've always done with our guys the different hand signals for Leave No Trace. And our scouts at our last camp taught that to our beavers. Our cubs, as they moved up, actually taught it to our scouts. So that was pretty cool. And they're now scouts, so they now taught it to our beavers. So we reinforced that as the beginning part of our meeting. And then we moved on to this game. So this game, we had questions. So Sean was really good at this, at making up questions for us, just sort of on the spot. And he sort of went, okay, this is a beaver. So let's say, oh, what is the one that's a hand signal of this? And he'd go, oh, that's a turkey. We have to be kind to animals. And then the scouts would be like, okay, so the third principle of Leave No Trace, what is it? And what is an example? So it was a higher level question for them. And so then as we got them right, they click on these and there's a little horsey sound and they move on. So that was what we had done for Leave No Trace. So the kids really enjoyed that. It was kind of nice, and gave us a bit of a discussion time. So we had craft time, and we made our craft time as puppets. And again, it was creativity. They had to think what they had around them. So I had said, you know, I'd given them the idea of sock puppets or paper bag puppets, or off the top of my head, I can't think what else they used or what else I suggested, but we had some use popsicle sticks. We had a whole bunch of different types of puppets that were made, and then they had to do a puppet show for us. So you can see this person's done a whole different background stand and everything for their puppet show. And so our beavers just did a plain puppet show, and our older ones had to do a puppet show that taught something about scouting. So I gave them some examples. They could talk about using their knife safely. They could talk about hug a tree or Leave No Trace that we'd already talked about. And so they reviewed a skill and in that way taught the skill to the others. So they posted those on Facebook as well for us to see. And all the Facebook posts are on our close page, and they're posted by the parents. So that avoids that issue. And we always give them the option of, if you don't want to post them there, you can email us. So they could still get the points and stuff through the email. And I did have one family who chose to do that. So then we did a 2-meter challenge. So in this day and age right now, we're always talking about 2 meters. So it was, what is 2 meters? How does 2 meters look like? And for the younger ones, that's a hard challenge to know. So we did a bunch of activities to get them used to 2 meters. So they put a thing on the floor to check out what their 2 meters were. And then they had challenges like, how many toilet rolls does it fit in there? How many books can you balance on your head to walk? How many baby steps does it take you? How many large steps does it take you? And it was really just to get them used to what that 2 meters are, so that they knew when they're out in the world right now what their 2-meter distance is. And then we did another sort of STEM challenge. We didn't call it a STEM challenge, we just called it boat challenge. So they had to find whatever materials in their house to make a boat and to float their boat and to adjust it to make it even better. So they all enjoyed it. There was tons of different boats. You can see here one with the cereal box. This one has tin foil. We had another one that was paper, and then he adjusted it and glued pop cans under the bottom so that the pop cans floated. So there's lots of creative ways that they did that, and so that was really neat to see. Here they went outside and they built an obstacle course. They also had the option that if they had already done, because some of my cubs had already done an obstacle course while we've been off, so we also gave them the challenge of doing a compass course if they preferred. So none of them took me up on that. They all did the obstacle course, but we had some great ones, and it was on and off raining at that time, so we have a couple that braved it outside, and one of our little beavers here has moved his inside. And this was a perfect picture because we couldn't see his face. And he was the cutest little kid on our things all the time. He was there for everything. It was really great. Again, obstacle courses can be used for some of your BAP badge work and stuff. So that was a great opportunity for them as well. Then we did some indoor challenges. So these were a bit higher of challenges. They had to think and try things. So they had to write their name in socks. They had to see how high they could build this tower. And you could see there Riley very excited that he actually got it that high. And I actually managed to get a picture of it. So that was a big challenge. They wrote their name in Lego. Here he's holding a stack of coins. How big of coins, how many coins can you hold on your hand? Just to do a few different kinds of activities with them. And then we did a mock first aid drill. So you can see Riley's dolling up Tristan here. So we gave them certain things that they had to do. They had to put an arm in a sling. They had to brace a leg. They had to, there was a head injury they had to wrap. And then they had to put a Band-Aid on, and they had to do something of their own. So this, the bandaging of the arm was Riley's extra. So it was great. You could see all the different things. It was really hard to get pictures of the other kids without those things. So I chopped off a few heads. You can see this top picture over here. This child remembered to put some gloves on first. So that was awesome to see. And in our bottom corner on the right, that's hard to see. You can see a foot here and nothing else because I had chopped the head off. But they actually wrapped their patient in blankets afterwards for shock. So the kids were thinking of different parts of first aid that they have to use. So that was awesome. And this child, I guess nobody at their house wanted to do it really. So he got out different stuffed animals, and each of the different first aid things, he put it on a different stuffed animal. So here you can see him with the splints around the leg. He's used some pens around the leg of his thing before he bandaged it. So our scavenger hunt, the hunt seek one, was a bit more challenging. So these ones were more thought producing. So we had this computer here it was the find something older than you. So this was their mom's computer, which was older than what they were. They had to find a souvenir from either a camp or a holiday. They had to find 5 things that were yellow rather than just a single thing. I can't remember what the canoe came out for, but so they had to do different things that were bigger than just finding a spoon and something they had to think about. So Riley and Sean, for the older than you, they took a picture together. So Sean was older than Riley. Then we did our virtual campfire. So I put we put one of our computers, so it was on our gas fireplace. And then we did our song skits and cheers. We did a very informal one. So we added jokes, which the kids really liked. And that was easier than the kids trying to portray a skit on the cameras. So that really helped. And we actually had a lot of joke time and stuff. So the kids really enjoyed that. And so that was a lot of fun. We had astronomy at night on Saturday. However, it was cloudy and rainy. So at the last minute, I threw them some videos, and then they just shared some of the things that they learned about. So that was great. I just threw them up on Facebook, and the parents were all responsive and sent me pictures back of the kids watching the videos and that kind of thing. So on a cloudy night, that was the best we can do. And unfortunately, that's the second time since we've been off that I've tried to do astronomy with them, and it's the second time it's been a cloudy, rainy day. So that's the best we can do for that. Here we got them all packing up. So we got some different pictures just of them packing up and tidying up their camp, which was Sunday's task after breakfast. and then our plan to review that we did on Facebook. So they posted their different thoughts. So this one wrote it up and then sent a picture. Some of the others just put in comments. Do notice that if you do a typo that they follow your typos. So I had put on my schedule for them Pandu review. So this child has actually written it's a Pandu review, and they posted on Facebook as a Pandu review. So in part of my review, I now have to teach them that it's actually plan, not pan, and move forward from there. So yes, lesson learned. And then while I was tallying points and stuff, they did scouting skills. So a lot of them chose to practice rolling their neckers. Some of them did knife skills, which I said to Sean, well, this is a good indication that we need to go over knife skills because she is here practicing passing the knife and clearly has done that inaccurately. So that could cause her some issues. So that's something now that we know that we can go into a Zoom night on another night and work on demonstrating and having them show us back on over Zoom. So that's great to see, and I posted it here because it's a perfect example of something that then leads us into other nights of being able to do for evening programs. And then we did a Scout Zone, and we focused our Scout Zone on COVID-19 and how they felt before being isolated at home, how they felt after camping, how those good feelings and the laughter and stuff make us feel better, and that we should share those good feelings with others to help them feel good as well. And so we gave them the challenge to go out and do something that will help other people to smile. And then we did a closing. And that is it. Now I just have to learn how to stop sharing. I did it. Okay, that's us. I don't know if there's any questions or anything because I could not monitor my question screen, chat screen at the same time. So
That was awesome, Christine.
thanks. Sorry it was so long.
But it was a busy camp.
It was.
Way to go. Good job.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions for Christine? I don't see any hands up. We have awesome, love the 2-meter challenge. Anya has stated. I like how you put in the COVID cases and our changing society. That was pretty cool about the 2-meter challenge as well, and how are you feeling pre-COVID and after COVID, after the camping weekend. That was pretty awesome, Christine. Good job. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen for a second. I have just one quick screen to show, and then we'll switch over to June. So the only other, we had a few scouting at home questions that were sent to us from our feedback from last week. First question was, will there be a scouting at home crest? We are looking into that. We have asked the question at Scouts Canada. We have not received a response as of yet on that. We have seen a lot of crests being posted on Facebook discussion forums and so forth. So there are groups and collecting ideas and so forth for our scouting at home crest, but we're waiting on an answer from Scouts Canada on that. How can we initiate a plan to review process from home from a led program? This is one of the interesting topics that we are actually looking into right now. I know the program team is working hard on developing and bringing Canadian Path and the plan to review process into a virtual environment. Christine had a perfect example of using it during her virtual camp, and how they even asked the kids, they planned their camp beforehand, and then they went into doing their execution and came back online and talked about things, and then did a full camp review at the end. We could talk about that as a discussion, and maybe just end a little bit later on in the evening. I just want to be cognizant of June's time here as well tonight. And can the app we are using for Virtual Scouters Club be used by sections and groups? Tonight you can. The Zoom app can certainly be used for the Scouter by sections and groups. What we have used in the past is Teams. Teams is a licensed account. We at Scouts Canada do have accounts. If you don't have the opportunity to use Zoom or any other source out there, please let us know. Kate and I are more than happy to set up team meetings and so forth. Zoom is actually one of the better tools. As you've seen, we've started switching to it as well. And oops. And now I'm going to introduce June, Group Commissioner from Ajax and Group Support Scouter from White Pine Council, to start with ScoutsTracker.
Hi, everyone. Let me just get, whoops, you move things. Okay. I'm just going to share my screen. I'm going to start off letting you guys know, not everybody might be aware, the ScoutsTracker site, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, about February or March, they announced that ScoutsTracker will be paid for by Scouts Canada. We don't know how long that's going to be in place, but it has been announced through Dave that as of July 1st, ScoutsTracker will be provided free of charge. One of the big questions that seems to kind of I'm hearing is, what does that mean if I already paid for licenses? If you go to your ScoutsTracker and go to the license area, it will tell you if you are entitled to a refund. Basically, and he also has an explanation of what a refund entitlement is, but he is not at this time going to refund less than $20, I believe was what it was stated. But that would stay on your account. So if Scouts Canada decides to pull their licensing, then your license, leftover licensing, would kick in. And I'm going to apologize in advance. I do have a dog and I cannot put the dog outside because he's always by my feet because he'll bark. So I apologize if he does bark, okay? Okay, so ScoutsTracker. I am using the presentation that was created by Dave so that there is consistency. If you were to do one of these courses with another, by another provider, we're trying to all use this presentation. So if you do beginners basic features with me and do advanced at ScouterCon, that it should flow correctly. So what is ScoutsTracker? So ScoutsTracker is a comprehensive section administered web application that lets you manage pretty much just about everything with your Scouts program. So from moving your youth through the Canadian path from section to section, your event tracking and management, including who's signed up, who's paid, who do I still need to nag about payments, communication, inventory, your planning, your weekly reporting. He suggests that we don't start from the beginning on creating your account for those of you that don't have an account yet. So we'll jump in instead on the concepts of the design and how it's used. I actually lost my, okay, anyways. So with ScoutsTracker, all the events and programs, the programming are linked. So it's very easy to connect your sections, your map sections, your spices, your badges, your outdoor adventure skills, all within your event meetings and camps. Everybody can see what is happening. The youth, the parents, and the scouters can see. Of course, there's different permissions. We'll get into that after. Security is important, so there's some extra features for youth privacy, as well as all the email communications do promote too deep communication, so you actually can't send out an email without having another too deep person on that email. Your time is precious, so he has worked very much to make this as seamless and does not take a lot of steps to do very simple work. So the youth plan their events with the objectives in mind. You're meeting to pick a route for a hike, your camps to earn permits, paddles, a paddle night to build canoe competency. All this is tied into the actual meetings. And at the very least, you're doing an example of a plan to review with your meetings. So each event can be linked to program elements. Either you're selecting those manually. So at any time, if you're doing like an emergency skills night, you might be picking a whole bunch of requirements from your OASs. And some of them are picked automatically. So if you're picking a camp and you're sleeping out 2 nights, it is smart enough to know to keep adding nights to your OAS skills. After an event, you very easily can give credit to the youth for completing the work that happened either in that meeting night or in the camp. And you can manually tweak it because you might have stuff that you plan to have covered, but not somebody left early and they did not do some of the events. So you can tweak it so that they're not getting credit for work that they did not do. Okay, so let me go in. I will tell you now too, you can create, for those that haven't created their accounts yet, you can create an account. You see my little red indicator, it's because this is a free account, it expires, you get 60 days free. But if you're starting brand new now, that 60 days should run into when Scouts Canada is going to be offering the license for free. So you can get a head start. So I'll quickly go to my schedule, and I should have been tagging along on this. Sorry, it's my first time using his, so I just have to keep track on where I am. So I've created this Beaver camp because I did a demo Beaver account. And if I click on it, this camp happened in the past, so I can easily go in and manage it to say who the attendees were for this camp. And save. Close. And then when I go down here to give credit, you can see that a bunch of the outdoor adventure OASs came up. These are just basically the nights stayed. So you can easily click and say everybody got 2 nights. And you can go in as well and override for somebody who only stayed 1 night. In this case, it's a little, let me just see if I can. Because this is one that actually kind of goes through multiple different skills, doing a difference on the night might be easier to do from here. So you have attended, you have an override, you can here also override. By doing it here, when you give credit, it would be 1 night throughout all the outdoor adventure skills. So there are 2 places you can do it. You can see now he's got a little red 1 beside it. So he's only going to count for 1 night being added to all those skills. Once you've given everybody credit, you can finalize your event, which just basically closes it off so nobody else can make changes to the credits. Let me go back to my presentation. Creating event, typically done by clicking on any day of the week and adding it. You can give, clicking on existing event drills down to it. Create new events. You can also duplicate events or import them from other schedules. I will just quickly show you guys in the calendar. In September, you can see that there are some events that are showing up right now, and they're coming from our White Pine Council account. So we are just starting right now to use the White Pine Council account. These events should mirror what you're seeing on the White Pine Council website for events that are held. You can easily see these by just saying show schedules. you have White Pine Council, you have Scouts Canada National account. As well, if you had any areas that were associated prior, and they're still existing, you would see that you'd be able to bring those in as well. You can bring these in and say import, and that will bring this event into your current account without having to go and retype everything. You would automatically just get the whole description and the event itself coming into your schedule. So define the basic details. Of course, you have your name, the location, time, description, your scouter notes, your travel notes, and the visibilities. You can add program areas and add related requirements. So I'm going to go in and basically, I'm not so much going to look at what he had in there, but I'm going to go in and I'm going to create an event. Let me just go back to here so I can find it easier. I'm going to create an event for next week. And this will be a hike. Let's say it's 2 kilometers we're going to be hiking. If anybody is going to ask me the difference between this hike and that hike, I can't answer it. I don't know. I always check both of them just to make sure I'm being covered. I do know this one allows you to enter your distance of your hike. But let's say your hike is also going to be picking up some litter on the side. You can also do community service, and basically they're going to be doing 1 hour community service while they're out on their hike. So you can multi-pick different things and put it in. You might also want this one to have parent participation, so you can actually pick that so it shows that you have parent participation. And you can see they all show up here, as well as they'll show up if you're using their website, which I'll be going into later. So as I said, I'm just going to do this a little bit different than his presentation, but it's fun family hike. And I don't know the actual, on Greatwood Road. So you have the site of where you are as well as your local, the actual address. Over here you have recent locations, which is great because as you start using ScoutsTracker, of course, there's those wonderful sites that we're always at all the time, like Camp Samak. So you would be able to click this and just automatically get these in. And they've actually expanded on this to have 2 separate lines because this is really great. Not all of being scouters, and we've been scouters forever, we assume that when we say Greenwood, or for me, that everybody knows where Greenwood is. But for new scouting parents, they have no idea. So it's always great now that they provide 2 lines so that you can actually put addresses. Same with Camp Samak. We all know Camp Samak, but it's nice when you put the address in here because then they know to use what entrance. So this is not an all-day hike. We're going to be starting this hike at, let's say, 6:30 to 8:30. Who can see it? This is great, especially if you're just discussing this and you don't want everybody to see it yet. You can change it that it's only scouters, or you can have it to be everyone. Who are your contacts for this event? So these are scouters. So we have Donald Duck and myself that are the contacts. And is this a feature event? By saying yes or no, feature events will show on their personal journey cards as well as their annual report. So for those type of features that you want to show on their personal journey cards. So here you got so the description will be what the parents can see. You can put scouter notes, so this could be bring chocolate. And the transportation plan, the transportation plan comes in very handy for when we get into the advanced features of doing the adventure application form. So pond locations, this is where we discuss where it ties into the actual program. What area of the program does a hike fall into? The environment and outdoors. You can pick more than one if it crosses over. Your program areas, again, that's environment and outdoors. Your program cycle, when is it happening? And the related requirements. When you're in the related requirements, this is where you can actually go down and pick different skills. So we're beavers, so we're basically also going to be, we probably would have done this already before this one. I behave, let's just say we're doing those as part of the badge, the event. Sorry, let me just close. I have my participants up here, so it's hard for me to see. Event. So signups, I'm probably for time going to combine a couple of these demos just because he told me it's going to be about an hour and a half to do this and we have only an hour, so I'm going to be kind of combining a few things. So for signups, you can enable signups for this event. You can allow maybes if you want. The unfortunate thing with maybes is sometimes it's really hard for you to plan if you do allow them to use that. Do we want them to allow guests? You can just pick this up and say, yes, we want them to have allow guests. You could put special instructions in here. If you want the guests to be signing a hold harmless for what's happening, you can put that in here with a link. Do you want a deadline for the signups? You can pick a date that they have to sign up by. And any costs to the event. So you could be saying for this hike, green one's not a good example, but let's say we were doing it somewhere else where there is an entrance fee. If there's a charge for scouters, guests, maybe there is less of a charge for guests because they're not getting a crest. And if there's any deposit that's required by the deadline date. So risk category, what is nice with this is here I'm showing a category 2. If you needed to know what this means, it is nice that you can click on it and it'll give you actually a description of what each of the categories are in case you're unsure. Does this event include out of country travel? If you were to select yes, then it would bring in the fact that parents, when they sign their child up, would have to fill in a parent consent form. The safety qualification. So what are the safety qualifications required to hold this event? This has to do with a lot of the policies by Scouts Canada. And for this one, standard first aid, we're not in the gym, so it requires 2 people to have that. And I will cover how that is determined when we get into the adding people. You can put attachments. So for some reason, if say you wanted to put a map up of the hike, you could do that and add it as an attachment. Who is your scouter in charge? You will need that for an outdoor application form. Adventure application form, sorry, they changed. And that's where this is, but we're not going to get into generating that right now. That's part of the advance course. So that's pretty much on setting up an event. It's pretty easy. Once you start doing it a few times, you can easily go in there and flip all the things through. And so basically that's what I just kind of showed you. So one of the things, sign-ups, yes, no. Okay. When you're managing, you can easily add a meeting, and all this does show up, can be used from a phone. It will shrink and grow as it needs to for being on your phone. So you can easily sign up individuals and say if people have paid. And this one has 2 guests coming and they've paid. So it is quite easy to keep track of your events, who's doing what money's come in. One of the other things I wanted to show here, I'll just create it beside it, because this is a wonderful feature, is during PQA time, seasonal assessments, you can choose a seasonal assessment meeting. When I hit next, you will see that it pre-populates in here the questions for the beavers, and as well as the assessment for the scouters. So you can fill this in right here, which is great because it's always with, it can carry on. So next year when I'm planning my, let's say, winter season, I can look at the previous year's winter season and see if there was any comments or some things that the youth that year looked at to bring up and be aware of. And the other one that's here, which is kind of also a cool feature, if you're having a targeted fundraiser, you can actually call a targeted fundraiser and pick the amount that each youth is to fundraise. Now, the only drawback of it is it does only go to $300 if you were running a fundraiser where you were expecting them to do more than that. That's where there is a limitation. You only have 300. And when you do your manage, let me just give it a name. When you do go to your manage, it would get, oh, it's not in the past, sorry. When it's in the past, you would get here the same way as you had your outdoor adventure, you'd be able to mark how much they raised. So it's kind of tracked with the youth on how much their fundraiser was. Sorry, that should have been in the past. Go back. Now, I've had my questions up beside me, but it seems they have gone. So, Kate, if you see anything come up, because I am trying to go through this pretty quickly, just let me know if there's a question I should be hitting on.
Okay, yeah, there are a couple, June. I wasn't sure maybe you would hit them. So are the necessary additional forms for various activities preloaded on ScoutsTracker, like the international travel permissions and category 3 forms?
So if you're talking about the, for the parents to sign off, they are on here. Is that what the, like the parent permission form?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you are doing a category 3 event or an out of travel event, which by definition is category 3, when you ask parents to either sign up in ScoutsTracker, or if you send out an RSVP email for them to sign up, they will get, when they say yes, they will get the form come up for them to approve digitally, and it is stored against the youth. For those parents that don't using that feature, if you have some people that are not using technology to its fullest, then if you get a paper copy, you can scan it and put it against that youth as well. So it's a record, everything is kept central. Did that answer that one?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, there's just one comment that it's really small on the phone, so I don't know if there's any presentation mode, but you're flipping between screens, so that may be hard, but everything else has been answered, so.
Okay, the presentation, I can make that available so you guys can see what the slides are. And I'm also going to tell you where some user guides are available, so you would be able to go through this using the user guides as well afterwards.
Perfect.
Reports. So one of the great things about this, because you are storing all the data centrally, is you do have quite a robust area of reporting. So you do have some weekly reports that you can print out. So you might be wanting to know, say I want to go and find out, create a report that shows who's participating in the family hike. You can also have in-out columns, which if you want to be bringing this is kind of cool because you could have people, parents actually sign beside. Oh, hold on. And the other thing which is really cool, if you're doing a printout for going to the hike, because maybe you're scared about not connecting, although ScoutsTracker does work offline, so that's another thing I'll talk about. But so say I want to have include an emergency list. If you see now down below, here's the list of participants who owed what, the sign in and out. So I right away, when Barney Rubbles comes to the event to sign in, I know he's still owing $5. As well as the parents put any notes beside this, you would see the notes as well. The wonderful, I'm going to be 10 minutes late, and you've probably already left for your meeting location. But here's the really cool thing. So they do list the emergency list. So if you're out on a hike, it has everybody's phone number. If you're doing it from your phone and generated from your phone, you can actually hit the call button and it will call the number. And as well as if you fill in the medical on the child, that will come on the emergency form as well. So if you have somebody who's allergic to bees, when I print this off and I'm out at my hike, I would know that that person is allergic to bees and they have an EpiPen on them. So that's always very, very helpful. Okay, that's the, keep going with the reports. That's the sign up, multi-event owing. You can, I only have one that's showing here, but you could pick a whole bunch of different events that you have going on, and it will generate a report that you could come to the meeting and it would show everything that is owing for all the youth. So when somebody is signing up their kid, you can quickly look all the way across and see what money is still owing. I'm not gonna wait for that to generate though. So that's very, very helpful if you have especially at this time of year, typically when you have a whole bunch, you have a whole bunch of camps going on. It's so helpful to know who's owing on what. Ready to demonstrate, this could be, I'm not going to be showing anything, unfortunately, just because I'm using a demo account. But if you had beavers that are going in and putting in some that they have worked on and are ready to demonstrate some skills, either in the OASs or they've decided they're going to be working on a personal achievement badge, and they've put it in, now they're ready to demonstrate that work. Before your meeting, you can come in here, say generate, and then do a printout, and it'll show everybody that's ready to test at that meeting night. As well, if you wanted to know what badges to bring that night for ready to award for the work that for the kids have done, when you generate this report, I should actually zoom into my actual one so you can see some stuff, but it would have a whole list of by badge or by youth. You can sort it either way. So say you just did a camp and you have the kids that should be getting their OAS camping 1, it would list all the children here that have, after you have given credit and finalized, it would show them all here. As well as here you have some other stat reports. So who's working on what, This lets you know what children are working on what badges. The pond maps, of course, that's quite cool. So you can actually generate all the pond maps with their names on it, and it would automatically be filling in as they go through. And you can print those off and give them to the youth at the beginning of the year so they can kind of see, or this is the, yeah, so they can see where they're headed and how much they've completed. And I went too far. Personal achievement badges, this is just, of course, nothing's there. So a list of all the badges, awarded badges, your wall chart. So if you're wanting to have your wall chart that you could generate and have on the wall of the gym, which would show for all your youth, all the different badges that they've been awarded. It'll also show if they're ready to get it, if you should be handing it out. So that's kind of cool if you want to have that on your wall to kind of get them excited about badges. Another great one that is brand new, I believe, because I haven't seen it before, is this National Standings Badge report. So what this is it goes and compares your colony against all the other colonies and tells you how you fare on all the outdoor adventure skills. So right here, you can see the dotted line is the national, that's the furthest along that they are. And you can see that, well, obviously, because I have no badges, I'm faring pretty poorly compared to the national average, which is about, most of them have camping 1 and all my kids have don't have any. So this is great if you're wanting to know whether your program is kind of keeping pace with the program nationally. Your history completions, this helps you with the completions of your different skills. Event tracking, again, you can see these are all your different events unfinalized. It generates reports, how many events haven't been finalized, how many by the pond locations. So there's a lot of different reports you can generate so you can kind of see. Amounts owed is also a kind of a cool one, is you'll get a list of by every beaver or cub or scout, how much they're owing totaled up. And if you were to click on this, it would then give you a listing of every event, which makes up that total. Your PQA assessment, member qualifications is what members have what. So this is quite cool if you're, who has, wilderness first aid, who has standard first aid, who has advanced, who has lifeguard. So your food safety, you can actually record against all your scouters their qualifications. And that is actually needed for some of the, when you're actually running some of the events. I'll go back and show where that was showing outstanding. Another, your shopping list, if you're using it for inventory, it does generate a wonderful shopping list, which will tell you how many of each of these you need to purchase when you go to the Scout shop or order online. Your record sheets, I know I'm getting a little bit off. Let me just quickly do this.
We have a couple questions, June. Maybe I'll read them to you just as you're navigating to your next spot here and you can see where they fit.
Okay.
So does the fundraiser number go per youth?
Yes.
Yes, per youth, okay. Just some feedback on the cool features you've been showing us. Can you show the total attendance and how to print it? Yep.
I'll do an attention. So just for the personal record sheet, this is also a cool report that you can, especially at the end of the year, kind of work with the youth and show them what they've worked on and where they are. So let me just get out of this. And which one was I? What report? Sorry.
Total attendance.
Attendance report, yes. unfortunately, I only have 3 things in here, but yeah, so here you can see I've generated it. It will show who's attended what and the percentage that they've attended. So this is a great report to be looking at periodically in case you're seeing all of a sudden that's somebody who was coming at the beginning of the season and now all of a sudden doesn't seem to be coming at all. A great way to check in with some parents to make sure everything's okay. If there's something that they need help with or any assistance.
Okay. And can parents see where each group stands compared with the national or just Scouters?
That one is just with the Scouters, I believe. I do not see that as part of the reports that they see.
Okay, and then is there a section budget tool with us so there can be like a starting balance for the year that tracks expenditures, revenues?
I had no there to create your budget. No, I haven't seen that.
Okay, and so it just tracks the inventory, it doesn't track dollars in
No.
through the fees. Okay, and then just some more. Could you expand a little bit on how it works offline? So would it have
Okay.
an app on your phone or whatever?
Yeah. So if you're using it on your phone, so it is a web. So if you go to Google and you put in this web address, and then on your phone, there's the ability, if you click the little dotted lines, it'll say save to home page usually. You can save that link to your, save it to your home page, so you can just click on it on your phone. It defaults to being online, of course, but you can, she's ready to launch offline, so yes. So what I would suggest if you're using this with your phone is always connect to what you're going to be using it for prior to leaving. So you connect from your home, so you make sure that that event has loaded up on your phone with the most up-to-date information. So if you get out somewhere and you don't have cell phone connectivity, it will run based off that information that it had last stored. Is that good?
Yeah, I think that's good for now.
Okay. So let me get back to the report. We're going to be looking at everyone should have visibilities. There is a difference between the members and the login. So members, the name, role, status, payment, attendance, logins, the permissions. This is a big one, so you guys are aware of. They can opt out of receiving emails from ScoutsTracker. And so if you're using ScoutsTracker to communicate with parents, please let them know ahead of time that if they opt out from receiving the ScoutsTracker emails and you're using that to tell people what's happening, then they're not going to know what's happening. And I've had that, they've done it by accident, and then all of a sudden, well, I don't know where we are, I never get any emails, and it's because they've opted out, and then it's a bit of a hassle to get them to get back in to opt back in. So if you're having a parent information session, it's good to touch on that so they're aware that when they're hitting that button, what they're doing. So multiple logins per youth, which is great. So you can have a youth with their own login. You can have mom, dad, stepdad, uncle, sister, whoever they want to have a login to that account. You can put multiple logins, and you can have multiple youth per login. So if somebody has 3 different youth in 3 different sections or in the same sections, that same login is hooked up to all of them. So a login grants access to specific use. So Billy Smith, access Billy. Mom Smith, access Billy. Sally Jones, access Sally. Stepmom, access both Billy and Sally. So there's a many-to-many relationship there. The authentication is stored per section. So when you're setting up your authentication, it is by section for that email. You can have multiple logins across multiple sections. Each section has their own password. So if If somebody has been using, let's say, this happens quite often, you have a beaver who's moved up to Cubs, so they're no longer using their beaver one. They set a new password when they go to Cubs, and now their younger child enters beavers and they can't get in now because they think it's the same password as their Cubs, but it was the same as the beavers that they'd used before. So there, I mean, when you're logging in, it's quite easy to reset a password, but that might be where you hear that the passwords aren't working. And you can have multiple logins within a section. Here's just connect to the appropriate URL. Pretty easy. It just ends with Beavers, Scouts, Cubs, Ventures, Rovers. And bookmark them in your browser for easy access. A scouter can help out with both colony and bee, and we'll need to switch between them. Scouter is also a parent. They can switch between being a scouter and a parent to see the difference. I'm not sure why you would really want to, because you can see everything if you're a scouter as you could a parent. And can switch at any time between logins by going to account, connect via other login, and I can show that because I have a ton of them here. Use a different login, so you can see here. I can use for my 8th Ajax, this is the demo one that I'm in right now, as well as I'm actually hooked up to a whole bunch of other Scouts, Events, Rovers, area accounts. So right from being logged in as Beaver, I can launch any of these. These ones will all launch in a new browser, a new tab. This one will just go back and forth on the same tab. So you can, here it's where you can log in by a smartphone or iPad. This is an older presentation, I did realize, because you don't have to say mobile anymore. So you could just say ScoutsTracker.ca/scouts and save that from your home screen. If you are using your phone, especially for attendance, as well as amounts owing stuff, it's usually better to use it in horizontal as opposed to vertical, because when you're using on vertical, when you scroll over to mark them as attended, you kind of lose the name, and so you're having to move back and forth, and it's very annoying. If you put it horizontal, then you can just you can see the name and the sign up all on the same line, so it works better. You can bring in a ScoutsTracker calendar into your Outlook or your Rogers or Yahoo, almost every type. If you're in schedule, I think it's up top, is it not? Okay, that one I have to get back to you. I didn't know how to do it, unless it's maybe down at the bottom. Subscribe, there we go. So you can subscribe, import, and share. So these buttons are what you use to for sharing your calendar. You can share it by using this to import it into another. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry. And subscribe. You can bring this into any of your Outlook, calendar, and iCal. Now, there does not tell you how to do that here, because every one of these works a little different. You would have to use your Outlook, your email provider, to find out how to add it, but this is the link to bring it in. How am I doing? Okay, I got 9 minutes, so quick. Scouters can see everything, change everything. So here, there is the ability to set permissions. Scouters typically can see everything, and parents and youth can only see their youth and change almost nothing. So basically, you're setting up the calendar, the events, the imports, the youth reports. They're just being able to see their own child, being able to see the work that they're working on. They'll be able to see their like progress through. but they can't see anything else. And it's just pretty much the same thing. You can customize it. You can allow youth to have more rights. By default, colony are not allowed to do anything in ScoutsTracker to troop, and company and crew are allowed to manage their own, but you can go in and modify that. I'll just quickly show where that modification is. If you go to logins, so say Daffy Duck here, I don't want Daffy Duck to be able to administer this account because they're not very tech savvy, and I'm afraid that they're going to do something. So all I want him to be able to do is see records and send emails. I can save that, and now that's all that login can do. And it's the same thing from the, you can see the icons changed here. And it's the same thing from the participants. You can give them extra rights. Let me just.
That's interesting, June. That was a conversation that was happening in the chat box just about like if you had youth-led troop planning the meeting or the adventure, that they could put it in here. So you're saying you can facilitate that without
Yes.
having to, that's great.
Yeah, and it's not, it doesn't have to be a blanket that all your scouts can do it. You can do it by specific members. So if you only want your patrol leads to do it, or your scout leader to do it, then you can just give those rights to those accounts.
Perfect.
And of course, at any time it can be revoked. So if all of a sudden somebody's going in and they're doing like silly stuff, you can pull it from them. It can be modified at any time. The PIN encryption for youth emergency info, I think you saw that when I was trying to generate one of them. When you create your account and you log in, it's going to ask you to set up a PIN, which is typically, I think it's a 4-digit. It might be like a larger than that, I'm not sure, but I use the 4-digit. And so that way, if I'm using my phone or anything, it's an extra security that people can't get into personal information. So if I left my phone on at a camp and somebody went in and wanted to find out something, like one of the kids picked it up and wanted to know something about one of the other youth, they wouldn't be able to, because as soon as they go to do it, it's going to ask for the PIN. BCC only emails, which is definitely something I would suggest everybody does. When you go to emails and go to option, check this to yes. That will make sure that all the youth and parent emails are going into the BCC field. And that way their email addresses are not being shown when you're sending the emails. All emails are too deep. So if I tried to send this email without having a too deep scouter, it's going to stop me. So I do have to have somebody in the CC area in order for me to be allowed to send that email out, which is always really good. We have to be too deep even in our email communications. So this is such great stuff. There might be some of this that I'm going to be putting off to the next one because we are running out of time. He did tell me that these were 90 minutes, so I don't want to leave you guys. So I'm going to just do a couple more things, and then I'm going to mark where I left off. And this is how I make sure I get great attendance for the next one, so that everybody will be coming back. Especially at this time of year, if you are people that currently use ScoutsTracker, you can see up here there's a beautiful button that says wrap up the year, which basically goes through and just kind of helps you with what are the things you need to do at the end of the year to move the program along and move kids up, put them to different sections. Let me just see. I'm on the wrong place, sorry. Home other. Here too is another area for those of you that are just starting. So this, when I went to home, other, right now I'm on Barney Rubble. So say I'm starting brand new and I don't have all the badges that the kids have already worked on. You can go in here, say all requirements, and for that youth while they're standing in front of you, or you have somebody that transferred in from another group who didn't have Scout Tracker. So if they're standing in front of you and I want to be able to look at their sleeve and say, okay, Barney Rebel, you already had camping 1. I see you have emergency skills 1. You've already worked on your heroes and your Olympic. And that's it. So I hit save. Now it automatically goes in the back and gives all that credit to the youth, which is helpful, like I said, especially if you get kids transferring in from new sections, or if you're just starting brand new, you'd want to be going through and doing that. There's all youth. Also, there's 2 places I can do that. Where do I want to do it? Let me hit this first, and then everything else I'll carry over, because I'm sure a lot of you guys, especially if you're starting off brand new, I dealt quite a bit with the schedule, but the big one is, how do I add my youth? You can go in, of course, and add youth individually. I would highly, highly say don't do that. The best way to go in and do that, and if anybody tells you that they've done this in the past, they had some issues with merge accounts, duplicate accounts, that's only because they created manually and then imported. Always import from My Scouts. So if you go to My Scouts, if you go in there, it tells you how to do it. Basically, you're just pulling the membership list from My Scouts. You're going to say choose file. You're going to look on your hard drive. You're going to put the file in and click upload. And it's going to take all the youth from that membership list and bring it in automatically. There is some tweaking that I'm going to show you next week, like some of it of putting in medical for your scouters to put in the qualifications and stuff. But it saves so much time than trying to go in individually. And for those that are planning to have a group account, if you have a group account and run that membership listing by the group for the group and bring it into your group account, it will load the kids into every single section. So you can do it once at the group account and don't have to keep doing it. And maybe you run that report every week or 2, especially in September. As we all know, we keep getting new members coming in, or your registrar, they get an email saying somebody's new. They run the report at the group level, bring it into the group level, and it will, maybe it's just one venture, it'll just add that one venture to your venture account, which is very, very helpful. The other thing I'm going to tell you, so there is some info missing, like I said, like birthdays, medical qualification. That's because Scout Tracker's always had to work with the reports that are already there in My Scouts, but Dave has supplied the developers at My Scouts what he would like as a custom export. And unfortunately, it's just not the priority right now for My Scouts to do that, but hopefully they will. And if that's the case, that should again alleviate a lot of work, any work on the setup side, because then it would be bringing in the medical as well as the qualifications that scouters have and things like that.
There's a question here, June. Does it only bring in active youth when you do the import from My Scouts?
It will mark them as pending. So you would have to, when you're looking at your youth, let me just go in here. You have the ability to show, no, it shows pending. So they show here, but there's going to show as pending, I believe.
So it brings all the accounts, whether they're active or pending.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I do, so you see here where optional other roles are. because I bring them in at the group level, I do put in here that, like I usually say registered.
Yeah, there's some back and forth here in the chat. Looks like you have to kind of select them when it depends on whether you're doing it at group or section. And there's a few caveats to this question, I think, here.
Yeah. So I usually do this. So I put it in that little area. So, because you know, at the beginning of the year, you always have those people that sign up late, right? So they haven't signed up yet. If you're doing this year over year, they'll show still in here that they're here, but they're not showing yet on your report coming in. So I always just put here registered for 2021. That way the scouters that are out on the floor can easily see if Bart Simpson keeps coming and he doesn't have registered for 2020, 2021 next to his name, that they need to tell them, like, listen, you need to get into the system. You're not in there yet. So I just use that field to keep track of the ones that are registered. And that helps the people that are on the floor know what's happening.
Good old Bart.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys saw my theme for youth. I had to change all the names, so. Any other? Let's compare. I don't know what thing. Yeah. You must select My Scouts. Depends on what report you generate. Okay, it seems to be going back and forth. I'm not sure.
Can we share the calendar with parents to upload to their own calendars? So when you were back in the calendar feature.
For sure.
Yeah.
You can do that. And what I want to show you guys, it is when you guys have your group account, you have the ability to create this wonderful hello website. You can see here it says website, but this is a demo, so right now it's not going to work. So I am going to show you my 8th Ajax one. So this is all generated from ScoutsTracker. So you can put in what your scarf looks like. You are able to load some photos in here, so you have kind of a photo going across, which is great if you just had an event that happened. They can kind of see what happened. In the news, so here in ScoutsTracker, you have the ability to put colony news. So you can go in here and put some information. That's going to show up in your news area. So each, right now you're seeing all of these because that's what my preference is. If I change my preference down here, let me just see. It will remove it. So as a parent, I'm only interested in beavers and let's say scouts because I have a kid in each, then I'm only going to see that.
Cool.
Upcoming right now with, it doesn't really show anything. That's a bug in the system. It usually, this will show in a list view as opposed to the calendar view. There is a bug, and there's some things that he's working on for getting ready for the next, for everything being free. So here's the calendar. You can see our calendar. We got a whole bunch of virtual accounts, virtual meetings happening. You can't get to this from the web. From Google. If I go into Google and say 8th Ajax, it'll pull up my other 8th Ajax, which is a promotional site. It's not going to pull this up. This you need to have, you have to have the link, or you have to know the naming convention to pull it up.
Okay.
So it'll also give you the contact. So if they want to be able to contact the contact leads, they can get that. And it's got an extra page to put additional info. So this can be where you got fundraisers. Here I have my packing list. You can have, different areas that you meet at. So this is all generated from the group account, but fed from all the sectional accounts. So it is a great tool. I always have this in my email address, my signature. So that's all the parents have this bookmark and it shows up nice on a phone and they can see everything that's happening.
Dave has a question. Can I create an event folder for pictures? And he also, Dave, you've got kind of like 3 stars. Is that you like jumping up and down with your hand in the air? I'm not sure.
So for the pictures that are here, they're loaded from the commissioner account, which is my 3rd training session. So not next week, but the week after.
Yeah, you got to come back for the photos. Way to lead, June.
It's all important. Well, now that it's free, some people felt that the group account didn't have enough benefit for paying a full license. So now that it's free, although I'd highly say that's not true, because if you're doing a group camp, you have the ability to push that to calendars. You can email directly. He's put some great stuff. If you've used group in the past and you haven't used it recently, or I mean, even just in the last little while, come back for that meeting, because there's this website. There's so much functionality now with the emails and the pushing and the sharing. Please come back. As well as, oh, I forgot to touch on it. It will be something I touch on in another section, but you can keep your inventory here, which kind of shows you your inventory for all your badges and all your crests and all your neckers and all of that. But for a lot of groups now, I know I do it with mine, the Adore Adventure Skills, I keep a centralized inventory, because I don't want everybody keeping 5 to 10 of these in every section. So I keep a centralized inventory. Sorry, throat's getting sore. And that's in my group account, but it'll show to everybody in all the sections that that's what the inventory is. And when one is used, so if I use one camping skills at Beavers, it subtracts it from my group inventory. So everybody is seeing an up-to-date group inventory.
Very cool.
Very, very cool. That's awesome, June.
And I have to remember where I left off, so I do have to make a big page here.
What account do we need to set up first? Can we do this before part 2 and part 3 of the training? So I think that's like, do you need to do the group versus the section account?
No, because I did my sections prior to doing the group.
So
the
preference,
only
really.
Yeah, but the only thing is, I believe you have to do kind of more of a manual linking, which I can show. If you do the group one, I think it might be a little easier, but I wouldn't hold off if you're waiting for a group commissioner to get involved with the group one. Go ahead, set it up. I can walk you through hooking them all together. And so let me just, I know I'm probably losing people because I'm going way over, but when you go to this ScoutsTracker.ca site, you can see here you have the list of the different accounts. You just click on this link and bring you, it's probably going to log me in because, yes, it did. Okay. If you don't have an account, it's going to bring up, let me just see if I can sign out.
Do we have to pay for a second ScoutsTracker to set up a group account? I have set up a colony account, but that's it so far.
As I said, right now, coming July 1st, everything is going to be free. So right now, what I would say is everybody go, and if you haven't used it before, create your demo site, your free trial, play with it. And then once the free licensing comes into effect, you'll just lose this this little red dot here. It's telling you that you're on the free subscription.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Anybody have any questions afterwards? You can definitely send me an email.
We'll do the same RSVP form with the spot for questions again as well. So as you're percolating between now and next week, you'll have a chance to put them in there, and June has access to that form, so she sees them as they come in. So it's another vehicle for questions too. For help, also, when you click the help, it does go to a reference guide, and there's a parent guide. This parent guide is outdated. It is still good enough to get parents going, but it was done by a who is it? Somebody in Toronto, I believe. It's gonna come up. Yeah, it's a Toronto group. So it was done 4 years ago. So there are some things that have been changed in the system, but it is definitely good enough to get parents going. The user guide
quick reference guide that is maintained by Dave. So it is pretty updated as he has new features coming in. This is always a great resource in order to see what to do and how to do it. There's so many places to do, and there's multiple places usually to do the same thing. So sometimes if you don't do it often, even for myself in an area I don't do often, sometimes I have to kind of look in different areas, but that user manual is gold.
It's fantastic, June.
And I'm so sorry
It's okay. It's
talked
perfect.
so long.
It's okay. Scout Tracker is interesting. I don't know. I learned so much new, so I'm going to be doing some new things in my company.
Wait till next week. So.
Does anybody have any questions regarding what we talked about tonight, or any comments? You can all open your mics now and turn on your video too if you'd like.
So question, I have a 33rd merged with us. They were very active in ScoutsTracker. Our group is active in Scouts. So is there a way to merge these two groups to one account and add on the Beavers and Group Committee and Cubs?
So you can, okay, it might be a better question for us to kind of look at individually with you. So as I said, I can be contacted. It's june.fry@scouts.ca.
Okay.
And I can set up a quick meeting with you and
Okay.
we can go through it, okay?
Perfect.
June.fry@scouts.ca.
Right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for June or comments about scouting at home?
June, if I could just mention the last page you were on with the Scouts Tracker, there's a new button there that says Quick Fix.
Yes.
That's new.
Yeah.
And it did fix a resolve a problem that I had. I just got access to our Cubs account because I'm doing double duty next year. It wasn't letting me see a few things. There were little hiccups in there.
Yeah.
And as I hit that button, it did in fact fix problems.
Yes. So what
But
is
it's new.
happening?
That's very new. It's just there.
Yeah. So what's happening right now is Dave is trying to optimize the database and make some changes. So with doing that, sometimes things are getting a little hung up. I might be having to do with some caching, especially if you have the offline put on. So by hitting that button, it does resolve a lot of the hiccups. So it's always the first place to try. And if you go to that,
you might also want to remind everybody that in that same page location, there is your login and transaction ID number. Dave needs that if you need to connect with him about whatever your problem is for a service help.
Yeah, that'll be part of what I get through on next week.
Okay, sorry.
Ian has his
Oh,
hand
you showed
up.
the page.
Ian has his hand up, and it makes me really happy to see that. Like, it's so funny. Okay, Ian, have at it.
Yeah, you figure do it politely. Yeah, we're new to ScoutsTracker. I don't even have an account yet. So if I opened a group account, would that populate with my other scouters? Would that populate automatically or something?
No, nothing is. So if you create the group account, so if I'm going to tell anybody how to start this, the most optimized way is I would go in. If you're a group that never used ScoutsTracker and you have a Beaver and Cub section, go in and create your group account first. So that's the commission account. After you have that set up, go and unfortunately, that comes at the end of this presentation, so we will hit it next week. Then I would go create my Beaver account, go create my Cub account. Then what I would do is go to My Scouts, download at your group level your membership listing, and you're going to load that into the group account, and it's automatically going to populate your Scouters and your youth in your Cub and your Beaver colony.
Okay.
So that is the best way to go about doing it. You can do it the opposite way, but usually you have to try and link the accounts together.
Just because I know my wife, who's a Beaver leader, already has an account.
Yeah.
So if I opened a group account, that's what I was wondering, if I put her name there, would all that information come?
I will be trying to add that. I didn't see it on his presentation for advanced features, but I'm planning to cover it in advanced features. And that is when we get into the cooperation, the sharing, and all that stuff. There's a whole area in the advanced skills, in the advanced area, and collaboration. It could be even that you link up with another pack quite often, and maybe you just want to have your calendars sync together and stuff. So there's things I'll be showing next week on how to make those connections.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Great, Ian.
I see a hand up.
We have a
Sydney?
hand up with Cindy.
Sorry. I already currently purchased an account. I do not have the group account fully set up yet because when I did everything else, I kind of got busy. Can I go and create the demo account to play in it so I don't mess up the account that's already active?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't like messing around in something I've already done.
You
Thanks.
can create a free account. I'm not sure if you can actually delete a free account. So that one I'd have to check because obviously I've never tried to delete an account yet. So if you can't delete it, the one thing I would do is just tell Dave, the support, that you created this just to play.
Okay.
And to get rid of it if you're never going to use it again, just so it's not cluttering. But if you want it to try new things, then just keep it on the side.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thanks.
If I can just add to that, I suggest people put in a play date, a fictitious event, and a couple of fictitious people, and use it with those tools. So if you do bugger something up, it's only on things you're going to delete later.
Yeah.
It's a great way to find out,
Thanks.
All right. I don't see any other hands up.
So if that's it for the content this week, I will stop the recording. We will pick this right back up next week with June continuing on. And we were really, really excited that we had the first virtual camp from Christine that we were able to go through in depth this week. So our sharing we'll keep it much more concise in the beginning June. So you have the full 90 minutes to keep going, and we'll try to get it into the 3 nights that we had planned. So you'll be all good there. And everybody, please do send your questions into the RSVP. And Christine, thank you so much. That camp was so inspiring. It looked so fun. It was like those
It was cool.
So good.
So good. Like tonight was just a really, really great call from a lot of different angles. So thank you to everybody for participating and sharing and being here. Gwen, do you have anything else to add before we stop the recording?
Nope, I have nothing else to add. I just appreciate everybody coming online, and I get to see all of our Scouters, which is fantastic. So keep on.
Great.
I hope you can all make it next week.
Yeah. Okay, let's stop recording. I'm not ending the meeting so we can stay. I know some people like to chat and socialize, so we can